Hey guys, today I'll be making a Q&A. So I'll be answering some questions that I get asked in my comments. So before we go to that, I just want to update you that I'm right now in Colombia and I have made some vlogs about my travel in Colombia. I've made it in Korean, in Spanish, in English, and in Thai. And if you're learning Thai, don't forget to subscribe to my Thai channel so you can learn Thai. Alright, let's get going to the first question. This question is from @manx5. Are you planning on learning a new language for next year? The answer is I'm not planning to learn a new language. I'm planning to improve my Turkish and my Japanese, and I'm also learning music, so I don't have any time for learning new languages. But in 2023, I'm going to be learning Russian, and that is confirmed because I really want to learn Russian. What is your weakest language out of the 10 that you speak? My weakest language is Japanese because I did not practice enough. I learned all the grammar. I can speak it, but I've not had enough speaking practice. The next few questions are from 1D Obsessed. Which of the languages you speak did you struggle the most with learning and why? I struggled the most with Turkish because Turkish is so different from any other languages that I know, and mostly the vocabularies, because in language you need to memorize vocabularies, and Turkish is just so different. There's no base that I can hold on to, so I really struggled in memorizing vocabularies. The second question is, what is your favorite language to speak in? I love speaking in French because I like the sound of it. I feel like when I speak French, I have to change the way I pronounce things. For example, the R sound in French is R, and for example, the I is je. If I want to say I love French, it's j'adore le français, and the little R at the back is so fun to make. I love making this sound. What are some learning strategies that helped you learn languages? I asked because I'm having trouble staying motivated. I actually made some video on how to learn languages from scratch. I'm going to put the link in the description. And I also talked about how to stay motivated. I'm going to put the link as well. But to answer it here, the way that I stay motivated is that I always imagine that there's going to be something cool happen in my life through this language. And I convince myself that it's going to happen. In 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, or whenever, but it's going to happen and it's going to be worth it. For example, Korean. When I started learning Korean, I didn't know how I can really put it to use. But after learning it for 4 years and struggling so hard to learn, I got a job as an interpreter. And then it changed my life in many ways. So to conclude that, it's just you have to convince yourself that language is going to bring something great and something that you can never imagine. It's part of your passion for learning languages because you like learning about different cultures and countries. Yes, and it's the only reason. If I'm not interested in culture and countries, I don't think I'll be learning languages because it's a lot of time investment. I love talking to people, I love traveling, I want to know about stuff. I'm so curious about the world, and that is why I'm learning languages. What countries have you visited and where were they? So I'm Thai, born in Thailand. So Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, Japan, Korea, Taiwan, Turkey, and in Europe, France, Switzerland, Germany, Austria. In South America, Colombia, Brazil, Ecuador, and then United States. And aside from Brazil, all these countries that I've visited, I've learned the language in Thailand before I went to the country and get to really use the language. Do you find it hard to understand some people with a heavy accent? Yes, I think it's something that I have to get used to. For example, in Spanish, I still struggle with this because there's some part of Colombia, like for example, Cartagena, in the northern part of Colombia, that they like to cut the word really short. And for example, sometimes they talk without S. One time the taxi driver said bendito instead of dos, because dos is two. But he said bendito, and I was like, what? 22 is bentido and not bentidos. But for English, for Korean, for Thai, I don't have any problem with this because I have had more time with the language because it's been more than 10 years I've been learning these languages, and I have a lot of access to like the TV and the movies and also many friends. So this can be improved with a lot of exposure to the language. When you were learning English, what were some things you found confusing? There were two things that I thought was hard for me. The first is the pronunciation, because the word like read and rate, it's written the same way, but it's pronounced differently. The word live and lives, for example, it's written the same way, but why is it pronounced differently? And also another thing that I struggle with, and I think I still struggle with right now, is putting the S as a plural. Because in Thai, my native tongue, we don't have S. We don't really put plural in the word. We just already can guess that it's supposed to be plural. We don't need S. That's why I find it a bit hard, and I sometimes forget to put S. The next question is from Nasrakan. Is there a format for how you approach language learning? What type of notebooks do you use? How do you organize your notes? I made a 30-minute video on how to learn languages from scratch. I'm going to put that in the link below. But if I have to summarize it to 3 points, it would be I would learn the writing and reading system. And the second is I'll learn from basic books. I'll focus a lot on being able to express myself, talking about what I want, what I like. And the last point is I move on to the real material as soon as I can. I feel like the last point is very important, and I feel like a lot of people don't really do it. They don't move on to the real material as soon as they can. So language learning for me is not something passive. I don't just, okay, I'm gonna learn 20 minutes of memorizing. It's not something chill for me. I treat it like a puzzle, and I always concentrate a lot when I learn languages. As far as writing notes, I don't really do that. A lot of people have their notebook to write like the exercises from one-on-one books. I usually just memorize the whole conversation in the book, or if I were to memorize vocabularies, I would read a lot, because after reading a lot of texts of the same theme, the word will keep appearing and appearing many times, and through that I feel like I get to memorize the vocab automatically without having to put it in a flashcard or anything. The next question is from Lucas Freitas, and this is asked in Portuguese, so I'm going to put the Portuguese subtitle below. I'm learning Japanese, French, and Russian. Do you think that it's fine to study 3 languages at the same time? I don't think it's good to study these 3 languages at the same time, and actually also for other languages in general, because I think you're wasting your time more than you should. The best thing to do is to study one language and to get to a level where you can talk and have a conversation with a native speaker. And once you get to that level, you can start another one while maintaining that one, and actually not only maintaining but also improving that one through speaking. And so every time I learn languages, it will be like this one goes up to a conversational level, and then I learn another one and goes up, and then another one, and then another one. It's like stepping up like this, but never at the same time. In what order do you recommend me to learn? Japanese, French, and Russian. As a Portuguese speaker, I think French is the easiest, but actually whichever order is fine, depend on your choice. But not a good idea to learn 3 at the same time because they're so different. The next question is from Baut. Grace, what is the language that you use daily? And what was the language that was most difficult? And have you given up on any language? The language that I use daily is Korean, English, Spanish, and Thai. And if not to mention that I teach other languages too, so I also use those languages daily, not as much as the first 4. The most difficult language for me is Turkish, and I almost gave up on Turkish many times, but I'm still learning every day, and I'm still trying to improve my Turkish. This question is from click. If you could buy the instant knowledge and understanding of language, would you? Or is it a slow journey of learning and understanding, making mistakes and milestones, the force driving you in your studies? Frankly, I hate the slow journey of language learning, but it is necessary. It is something that you cannot avoid. So my goal is always to discover the world, to learn about people and the language and the culture. So I cannot avoid this slow journey of language learning. If I could have the instant knowledge of language right now, I would. The slow journey is a pain in the butt, but it's worth it. The next question is from Eliana. Are you planning to learn other Southeast Asian languages like Lao, Khmer, and Burmese? I want to learn Lao one day when I get to live there, and I really want to try to live in Lao because it's right next to Thailand. The next question is from Adrian. What consideration goes into deciding what language you choose to learn? Is there certain things that make you choose one language over another? Different languages that I learn has different reasons. For example, Indonesian. I started learning Indonesian because I found a really good book, and that's the reason I started learning. Turkish was because I was so curious. People say that Turkish is so similar to Korean, and I wanted to know how similar they are. But for the next one, which is Russian, it's because there's so many speakers in many countries, like the ex-Soviet countries. A lot of people are still using Russian. So I feel like through this language, I'll get to discover so much. I'll get to talk to people from many different countries, and they all have different way of thinking, different culture. So I think it's gonna be really interesting. The next question, and the last one, is from Gift Kumpapan, and she asked me, what is the common thing that all languages have? What's something that you find unique and different about different languages? Things that I find different and interesting are things such as tones. In Thai, in Chinese, there are tone, and if you just change the sound of it, for example, in Thai, if you say ma, it's dog. If you say ma, then it's horses. In Chinese, if you say ma, it's to scold somebody. If you say ma, it's a question. So I find the tones very unique. And also languages like Turkish, Korean, and Japanese, the verbs at the back. So in order to understand what people are talking, you have to listen until the end of the sentence. Also, I find the loan words very unique. For example, the word computer. If you would say the word computer to a Thai person or Korean person, they would not understand. You have to say with their accent, like computer for Thai people, and for Koreans, computer, something like that. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching, and if you have any question at all, please write in the comment and I will be looking and answering your questions. See you!